Okay, so now I'm going to present my 7 insights and strategies. As you can see, I have this lovely sombrero with my 7 insights taped onto it. My very first insight is always have a plan B. You never know what's going to happen, so you always want to make sure you prepare for that what if in life, because we never know what will happen in our classroom, whether or not if technology will fail. So it's always good to have a backup. And I think as a teacher, we should always have that in the back of our mind. The next little insight I have, and I have a little prop that goes with it, is exposure to art, music, and language are key for early childhood development. They lead to better learners. As Eric already pointed out, there's not really any proof that there is, but we can encourage it. That shows on their test scores and their developmental processes that it's important to keep those things in mind when they're young. And in our classroom, I have this little CD. It's called Este Mundo. It's a Spanish CD, so something I would have in my classroom playing just to encourage the Spanish language, and it's a different way to hear the language. So my next insight is make students accountable for both the good and the bad things. And this goes back to that fight story that Dixie told us about, that you can always get different perspectives on what would happen as opposed to just making a rash judgment. It's always good to look at the picture from every point of view, and to always, praise the students for good work and to, encourage them to be the best that they can be. Next, I have, as teachers, we must create an environment of enrichment, stimulation, and safety. And this just is pretty self-explanatory. We want to make sure that we have an environment where everybody's welcome and that it's safe and that they can be who they want to be and they can be themselves and feel comfortable. And that goes with the no tolerance of bullying, that whole little tangent. The next little one, I have another little prop, and it says, if you can relate something to a scent, it's the strongest memory you can create. So I have a candle, it's a scent. So that's one of our jobs as a teacher, is to try and create memories or try and relate something to a memory that they'll stick with. And so if you can relate it to a scent, that's the strongest memory that we have. And then Dixie's famous quote, it doesn't matter what is real, but what is perceived to be real. So you always want to make sure that you sound like what you're talking about, even though you may not know what you're talking about. So you want to make sure that you I don't know, this is my own interpretation of this, but I think it's kind of, one of those things, you think you know what you're talking about, try and make it, believable, because it's what's perceived to be real, not what is actually real. And lastly, do not get competitive with your own children. Teach, support, and learn from them. So we don't want to create conflicts, because the children, are not always right, but you don't want to get in the competition with them. So now I've got 7 strategies that I would use in my classroom. As Eric used, the post-it strategy is something we all should use. It's a great way to keep, students anonymous and whatever sort of data gathering. It's also a great way for them to write feedback or to give their own little 2 cents on what they think is going on and what you can improve on, and as long as it's appropriate. That's a key word with the post-its. You want to make sure that it's appropriate for the students. The next little strategy I would use, this is my version of a question box where they can come and put questions, concerns, comments. It's the same way to keep anonymous. If you want them to put their names, they can. If not, it's better to keep it anonymous. And then you can use those to improve upon what's going on in the classroom. So I really like that little strategy. And then going along again with the complaint book, or, keeping anonymous, you have a complaint book. This was just a notebook I had. You can always make it to where they can't read other people's complaints. Just try and make it as anonymous as possible. But it's a great way for the students to express how they're feeling, their frustrations, their complaints, concerns, and how to improve upon it. That's the one key thing I would put in there, is how put a suggestion to make it better, or whatever if they're going to write a complaint, they have to come up with a way to make it better. And then, of course, I think that something really important is having an assignment book. So this is a binder that would be an example of an assignment book. It's where you make sure you put in the day's assignments, you know, a little schedule of what was done, then they can get everything they need to, so they're not bugging the teacher about what they missed. They can know to just go to the assignment book and they'll find whatever they need, and they can ask other students as well. But they would have the assignment book and know exactly what is where and what they would need for that previous class that they missed. Okay. I don't really have a little, you know, prop or whatnot for my next strategy would be using skits. Because I think for foreign language, when learning vocabulary, it's really important to have a kinesthetic aspect of it. So if you can act something out, it'll create a trigger, a memory that they'll remember that word, phrase, whatnot, and I think that's important for any subject, but for foreign language, I think it's a great learning tool for learning vocabulary. Exactly, especially for fun little words like turtle. You can use, you know, tortuga, you know, just something fun, and just tortuga, like a turtle.
Looks like a crab.
Yeah, but I don't know. You can create something, or have the kids create skits. That's always fun. And then the next one I would do is called I do, you do, we do. This is where you show the students, then they model it, and then we all do it together. That way they have it in 3 different ways, and they can learn something from each of the different processes of the I do, you do, we do. And then just for fun, I always talk about how I would use the naughty sombrero, and so this is my naughty sombrero, and I would use this if they were breaking classroom norms or regulations, if they're tardy. It's not like a dunce cap or anything, because that promotes negativity. I just think it's kind of fun to call somebody out if they're late. They know they have to wear the naughty sombrero. So I just think it's kind of funny. And even if you can call yourself out if something happens, you have to wear the naughty sombrero. It's just a way to kind of be funny and connect with the students. So that's my 8th sort of strategy I would use in my Spanish class. So that's it.